Look at how big that thing is. That thing's huge. Hey everyone, welcome back to Caesar's Freedomstead. Today, I'm gonna teach you how to grow huge eggplants. Ain't that something? They're huge. Now I got a huge hand. I can't even fit my hand around that thing. Today I wanna go ahead and teach everyone out there how to grow huge eggplants. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while or you've been watching our videos and haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. I'm gonna make a little bit of a series on eggplant videos. I've made quite a few in the past of growing eggplants in containers, harvesting eggplants in containers, but that was really just the beginning of it all. I wanna go ahead and go into a more in-depth growing guide on growing eggplants and growing them large, which varieties to buy, and how to grow them. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is my row of eggplants over here. I have 3 large eggplants growing over here. 3 large plants growing in containers over here. Over on the other side, I have a bunch of smaller eggplants inside of their little containers, and we'll go through that in just a minute here. But I want to go ahead and show you, first of all, which variety of eggplant that you want to get, and how to plant it, how often to water it, and a couple extra things in there that I do personally that helps these eggplants grow really large. Now, some varieties only get so big. You know, Black Beauty only gets so big, the white Casper eggplants only get so big, and on and on. But the variety that I'm going to recommend to you, which there isn't that big of a difference in the taste, is the Aswad eggplant. The Aswad eggplants get huge. So if you want to get more bang for your buck, if you like to eat a lot of eggplant or you like to cook with it a lot, or if you just like growing it for it to look nice in your garden, grow the Aswad eggplant. Right here, this is another eggplant that's growing over here. I showed you the one on the far side. We'll go over that again in a second. But I want to show you the different ways that this eggplant is going to grow. So as you saw, the first one was like a big ball. This one right here, same variety, the Aswad, and it actually has lobes to it. You see it there? It has lobes to it. It looks really cool. Now, these right here are actually still growing. They're still growing large. This one right now is probably about 2 pounds. The one on the other side that I showed you in the beginning is nearing 2.5, almost 3 pounds. That one's almost ready to cut. But this right here, this is still growing. Now, this is what the Aswad eggplants are gonna look like. Okay, now we're back here with one of my really big ones again. Now, I want you guys to remember that I don't grow anything with hormones or steroids or anything like that. This is just pure homegrown eggplant, just like I do with everything else. But there's a certain way to get your eggplants really big. I'm gonna go over the Aswad eggplant, and then in the future, I'm gonna go ahead and go over the Black Beauty and the white eggplant. So there's a way that you can get all of them to grow really big. I'm gonna start with these because I want everyone out there to try these eggplants because they're gonna grow big as it is. You could get them super big, you know? These can get up to 3 pounds or more. Obviously, you don't want them to get too big because they start tasting pretty bitter. So you wanna get them at the right time, maybe about 2.5, 3 pounds. Now, the way that I grew these, a couple of things. What you wanna do with all eggplant varieties is you want to water them religiously every day if they're in containers, because obviously the whole container factor, you know, when you're growing your plants in containers, they're going to dry up much quicker because they only have a finite amount of space inside the container. So there's a finite amount of moisture in there as well. So when you're planting in containers, no matter what it is, first of all, you need to water it every day. And if you see my last video about watering your garden, if you can, water it twice a day. And check for that video to figure out when. One of the other things that you need to do here when you're growing the big eggplants, you want to try to get them as big as a container as you can, obviously. I got that a big giant container right there. One of the questions I got on one of my videos from the past on growing eggplants in containers when I was growing them in the shade is I got the question, well, the ones growing in the shade have a bigger container than the ones that were growing in the sunlight, so that's why they're growing bigger. Well, this is the same container that I was growing the ones in the sunlight in that were smaller. And so I just wanted to show everyone there that these are going to grow large in the big container or inside of the small container, either way. The only difference is that I grew those ones in the larger container inside the shade. So it wouldn't have mattered inside the big container or the small one. So you can try both. Now, like I said, number one, water it a bunch. Twice a day if you can. Next, I've said this in the past many times. Go ahead and check out my other videos about growing eggplants in the shade and in containers. I grow these in half shade. Right now we got the morning sun, and the morning sun is hitting these, but about midday, not quite afternoon, this whole area behind me here, there's another eggplant right there I'm pointing to. This whole eggplant area right here is on the side of my greenhouse, next to my house. And so this area actually gets mostly shade. And so I want to stress that over and over again, you know, for everybody, because I want you all to be successful in growing, is growing eggplants in the shade is the way to go. You just need to give them a little bit of sunlight, which in this case, in the morning. And the morning sunlight is the best because it's not super hot. You know, they're getting what they need and they're not drying up like crazy. And that is one thing you need to remember about eggplants is you don't want them to dry up. Eggplants are one of those plants that love water and they thrive on getting lots of water. So if they're not getting lots of water, they're not going to grow big eggplants. You may not even get any. You'll actually, the blooms, here, let's find some blooms for you. Okay, here's one of my other eggplants. Now you see these blooms up here? And the bloom up here. There's some blooms in here. There's a little eggplant coming. There's an eggplant coming right there. If you don't give your eggplant enough water, the blooms are going to turn brown and they're going to fall off. So that is one of the telltale signs that you're not watering it enough, because your blooms are falling off like crazy. Now another reason it would be because they're just not getting pollinated. They're not turning into anything. They're kind of just falling off. But what I've seen over the years is it will not produce. Its flowers will not do anything. It will not become engorged like this. This is how you know when you're getting an eggplant, is when the flower is turning brown here, it's falling off, but it's engorged right here. Now, what I mean by bloom falling off is this entire structure right here that connects to the branch. This whole thing will fall off. It'll turn brown here at the node and it'll fall off. And you know that you're not giving it enough water. So, but if the flower turns brown and comes out and it's engorged, you're gonna get an eggplant. So make sure you're watering it enough, keep it half in the shade, and your eggplants are gonna go awesome. Now I feel I need to touch on the subject of giving your eggplants or any of your plants plant food. The answer to that is yes. Go ahead and give them some sort of plant food. Now I give them plant food from the store that's just like a general mix. It's nothing too special. It just has what all the plants need. So just buy the feed that you think is best for your plants. Generally, most of the plant feeds are about the same. Some have a couple different things in there, like more of one thing, like more calcium than others or whatever. I'm not for one or the other. I've tried many of them in the past. And I don't really mention any of them because that's not what actually is going to give you the big eggplants like this. That's just to feed it and maybe give it a little bit of what it doesn't have. Most of what it needs is going to be inside that dirt, the fertilized dirt that you put in there. If it's good dirt, make sure you're getting brand new dirt, or if you're composting. And when you're composting dirt, you could go ahead and, if you have farm animals or such, you know, spread their manure in there, mix it around and let it sit for a long time. That's what the plants need. But I do say, you know, you can use some of that plant feed to grow it just that much bigger. Another thing I wanted to show you is, look at all the blooms on this one plant. There's an eggplant back here, eggplant back here. I try not to allow the plant to grow more than 2 or 3 max on one plant. And the reason is because it's going to put all of its energy into all 3 of those, and it's not going to be able to concentrate its energy into just one if you want to get some really big eggplants. So I'm keeping 2 on here for now. This one is brand new. He's just popping out. He's just popping out right there as of a couple days ago. Maybe 5 days ago. Yeah, about 5 days ago, he started coming out. Obviously, here's one of the big guys. But look at all these blooms. Now, you'll get a bunch of blooms as long as you're watering it prevalently. You're giving it enough water every day. That is one of the good signs that you're taking care of it, is it the leaves are a beautiful green. It's nice and soft. It's got that little furry velvet feel to it. One thing I want to tell you about the eggplant. There's a point to where you want to trim the leaves, and then you want to stop trimming the leaves. Now you see all these eggplants are doing well. This one in the middle has got two big ones coming, but still over here you see plenty of blooms coming, plenty of them. And here's this guy down here, huge, absolutely huge. Oh my gosh. So you want to go ahead and prune and trim the leaves when it is young. Now, when you want to stop, here's the idea. When you want to, the area where you want to stop trimming it is when you start to see an eggplant finally coming in. Like this one is a little engorged. Once you see your first one of those on your eggplant, stop cutting the leaves. Because what you're doing is that you're telling the plant to do something other than what it's trying to do. When it's growing the eggplants, what it's trying to do is it's trying to grow you some food. It's trying to get you your eggplants. But if you're continuously trimming it, what you're doing is you're telling it that you want it to grow. You want it to go in whatever direction you're clipping the leaves. So one way for you to keep on growing lots of eggplants and large eggplants is you want to limit the time frame when you're actually trimming them and pruning them. So again, great rule of thumb, as soon as you start seeing at least one of these starting to be engorged and it's starting to create an eggplant, don't cut any more leaves, just leave it alone. It is ready to go. And that's what I've been doing with my eggplants for quite a long time now, a few years. So I've done that on these, and these eggplants are getting really, really big. And I have some back here as well. These are all different varieties back here. I'll go over them on another video. Here's one being engorged here. But we'll go over those. I've got about 20 different eggplants over here. I'm growing all kinds of different varieties. I'll go over those with you. And some varieties many of you may not have even heard of. And we'll go over those. All right, everyone. So let's go ahead and review real quick. So what you want to do first, get them in a big container. 1 eggplant per container. You want to water your eggplants religiously. You want to go ahead, if you want to get the really big eggplants, it tastes just slightly different than the Black Beauty, but it's still about the same, you know. Get the Aswad variety. These are really big. These are still growing. On my next video, I'm thinking about cutting these, harvesting these, and weighing them for you. They're going to get just a tiny bit bigger. So get the Aswad eggplant. Go ahead and plant that in the container. Water at least twice a day if you can. If not, just get it once a day, but you have to water every day generously. Go ahead and only trim it until your first flower is starting to become engorged to become an eggplant. And most of all, most important of all, you want to grow it in mostly shade. These are the nightshades. Some people on the internet I was reading talk about the nightshade family and how it you know, all these different varieties are in the nightshades, and in the past they were grown in the shade. And then you'll hear other things too, that the nightshade doesn't actually mean grow in the shade, but it does. Okay, I've tested it time and time again, year after year after year. So a great way to think about it is if it's 100% in the nightshade family, try to grow it in the shade. Just give it a little bit of sunlight, like I do. Try to do what I do. Put it in an area where it gets sunlight in the morning, where it's not too hot, and the sun's not too hot, and then shade for the rest of the day. They're gonna get huge. Well, thank you so much, everyone. If you like this video, if you got information from it, if you enjoyed it, go ahead and subscribe and like, and I'll see you next time.